I should be dead. She should have been driving. It was a Friday night, late October, and the roads were slick with that first real rain that always seems to catch people off guard. The kind that turns oil and dust into a death trap. We were driving back from her sister's birthday dinner, 2 hours away, out in the suburbs. She'd had a couple glasses of wine, maybe 3. I didn't think much of it at the time, just took the keys like any good husband would. She didn't argue. Just smiled and said, "You're my hero," and climbed in the passenger seat. She was scrolling through Instagram, humming to herself, heels kicked off, seatbelt slack. I remember the glow from her phone lighting up her face. She looked peaceful. Content. I wasn't. I don't even know why. Maybe it was the way she laughed a little too hard at her brother-in-law's jokes. Maybe it was the way she ignored me at dinner, like I was just the driver. Or maybe I was just tired. Bone-deep tired from trying to keep up the image of a happy, stable marriage while feeling like a ghost in my own home. But that doesn't matter now. We were about 20 minutes from home when the crash happened. I came up on a yellow light too fast, tried to stop, tires screamed. Hydroplaned straight through the intersection. A pickup truck blew through on the cross street and nailed her side. The sound. Jesus, the sound. Metal folding in on itself. Glass shattering. Her scream cut off by the airbag. My head snapped sideways, and for a second everything went black. When I came to, the horn was blaring. Airbags were out. Smoke, or steam, or something, filled the car. My wrist was twisted wrong. My chest felt like it had been hit with a sledgehammer. But I could move. She couldn't. I crawled out, staggered to her side, pulling at the mangled door like an animal. She was unconscious. Blood was trickling from her hairline. Her legs were pinned. Her face pale. I shouted her name over and over, slapped her cheeks, begged her to wake up. Nothing. Just shallow, rattling breaths. The paramedics had to pull me off the wreck. I kept trying to climb in, kept screaming that she wasn't breathing right, that she needed help. They sedated her in the ambulance. Took her straight into emergency surgery. I rode behind them in a second rig, holding a compress to my head, blood drying on my shirt. That night in the hospital waiting room felt like it lasted a year. I sat there alone, clutching her wedding ring. They'd pulled it off during intake, just staring at the linoleum floor like maybe it'd open up and swallow me whole. The surgeon came out just before dawn. Said she was alive, but it was bad. Brain swelling. Crushed pelvis. Broken femur. Internal bleeding. They put her in a medically induced coma to try to give her brain a chance. I nodded like I understood, but I didn't. I was just trying not to fall apart. A nurse came by later and handed me a plastic bag with her belongings, phone, wallet, jewelry, her shoes. Said I could take them home or keep them in the locker. I took them. I charged her phone in the waiting room. I don't even know why. Habit, maybe. Something to do with my hands. I just couldn't sit there doing nothing. Then it buzzed. Last night was incredible. I can still taste you. From someone saved as Mike G. At first, I didn't believe it. I thought maybe it was spam. Maybe it was someone else's phone. I checked again. Lock screen photo, us. Wedding photo. Her smile. My hand around her waist. Definitely her phone. Then another message popped up. When can I see you again? My stomach turned to ice. I wish I could tell you I didn't open the phone. That I was a bigger man. That I respected her privacy. But that would be a lie. I opened it. I read everything. Months worth of messages. Photos. Voice notes. Hotel confirmations. All of it. Everything I didn't want to know but needed to see. My wife of 8 years had been sleeping with someone else. Not just sleeping with him, planning a life with him. And I was sitting there, covered in her blood, waiting to find out if she'd ever wake up. I didn't go home that night. I couldn't. I sat in the hospital's empty chapel for a few hours, staring at the stained glass window like maybe it'd tell me what the hell I was supposed to do now. My wife was lying in a coma upstairs, and I was holding her phone, reading messages from a man who called her baby and goddess in the same breath. I read things I'll never be able to forget, things no man should ever have to read about his wife. She told him she loved him. Said she hadn't felt this alive in years. Told him she wished she'd met him before me. I read it all with the kind of calm that scared me. Like I was outside my body, watching some other guy get his heart stomped on. That guy wasn't yelling. He wasn't punching walls. He was just sitting there, hands trembling, face blank. I went back to the ICU in the morning. Her sister was already there, mascara smudged, face puffy. She hugged me like I was the grieving husband I was pretending to be. I held onto her long enough to feel disgusted at myself, then pulled away. "She's stable," her sister said. "That's something, right?" I nodded. I didn't tell her I knew. Not yet. I kept the phone on me. Locked it. Put it in my pocket like a loaded weapon. For 3 days, I played the role. Held her hand. Talked to doctors. Gave updates to family. Everyone kept saying how strong I was being. What a rock I was. Truth was, I was dying inside. And it wasn't just the affair. It was the realization that the woman I'd loved for 8 years, the woman I'd built a life with, made sacrifices for, had been living a double life under my nose. Not just sneaking around. Not just one drunken mistake. No. This was organized. Methodical. She had whole sections of her life cordoned off, carefully edited and hidden from me. Hotel bookings under fake names. Photos taken on girls' weekends that never happened. Conversations with friends where I was the joke, the dull, dependable husband who paid the mortgage and didn't ask questions. I started thinking back. Little things. Missed calls. Late meetings. The new lingerie that appeared one day without explanation. Her sudden obsession with going to the gym. The way she'd pull away when I touched her at night, claiming she was just tired. I'd written it all off. Life gets busy. People change. Marriage has its seasons, right? God, I was blind. On the 4th day, I went home to shower and change. The house felt different. Smaller. Colder. Her scent was still everywhere, in the closet, on the pillow. I sat on our bed, held one of her hoodies to my face, and felt the rage come in hot. I didn't cry. I wanted to. But it wouldn't come. All I felt was heat and nausea. So I opened the phone again. And I went digging. Not just for the affair. For the pattern. And what I found, man. What I found made the first messages look like a warm-up. There wasn't just one mic. There were others. I wish I could say I was surprised. That the second and third names shocked me. But they didn't. By the time I realized there was more than one man, the part of me that could feel surprise was already gone. Burned out. What replaced it was something colder. Sharper. I didn't just check her messages. I pulled every thread. Every app. Every email. Every backup. She hadn't just been cheating. She'd been building lives. There was a guy named Eric she'd been seeing the year before. All lovey-dovey at first, "You're the one I've always dreamed of," kind of crap, then it faded. She ghosted him, told him she needed to work on her marriage. That same week, she started texting Mike. Before Eric, there was a Greg. A divorced coworker. Flirty emails. Lunch meetings that turned into weekends, at her mom's. I remember one of those weekends. I stayed home with the kids while she said her mom was having health issues. She was at a cabin 2 hours away. With Greg. Photos in her hidden folder. Things I can't unsee. Things I wish I could erase from my brain. There were even screenshots of her telling her friends, real friends, ones who smiled at me at barbecues, about how boring I was. How safe I felt. How she couldn't imagine spending the rest of her life in a loveless cage with a man who has no fire. That one stuck. I had no fire, apparently. Never mind that I worked 50 hours a week. That I changed diapers at 3 a.m. That I remembered anniversaries and scraped ice off her windshield in the mornings. That I defended her against my own family when they raised questions about how much time she spent at work. None of that counted. Because I wasn't exciting. As I sat there in our bedroom, piecing together the timeline, a different kind of grief set in. Not just the grief of losing the woman I loved, but the grief of realizing I never really knew her. That everything, the home, the marriage, the intimacy, was built on sand. I started looking at old photos on my phone. Family vacations. Birthdays. Her laughing at some inside joke. Me holding our youngest daughter, Lily, in the hospital room, crying with joy. Then I saw it. A message from a guy named Anthony, dated around Lily's due date. Him saying, "Are you sure it's his?" And her response? "It doesn't matter. He'll never question it." I dropped the phone like it burned me. I couldn't breathe. I felt like the room was closing in. My ears were ringing. My vision blurred. Lily. My Lily. The little girl who runs to me yelling, "Daddy," every time I walk through the door. Who draws pictures of us holding hands. Who begs me to read her "Goodnight Moon" in my bad cartoon voices. She wasn't mine. That night, I drove back to the hospital like a man possessed. I didn't go to her room. I stood in the parking lot for almost an hour. Trying to decide whether to walk in and scream. Or just disappear. Vanish. Leave the lies behind. But then I thought about the kids. About my son. About Lily. Especially Lily. She didn't ask for this. She didn't choose any of it. So I made a decision. If this thing was going to burn, I was going to walk through the fire, not away from it. And I'd do it with my eyes open this time. I didn't sleep that night. I sat in the living room, lights off, the hum of the refrigerator the only sound. Her phone was on the coffee table in front of me. I stared at it like it was a ticking bomb, but it had already gone off. I was just sitting in the rubble now. Sometime around 3 a.m., I started writing things down. Dates. Names. Locations. Every message, every timestamp, every lie. I wasn't sure what I'd do with it all, but I knew I needed it. Not for revenge, not yet, but for clarity. Proof that I hadn't gone crazy. That I didn't imagine the betrayal. That I wasn't the fool they all thought I was. I didn't tell anyone. Not my brother. Not my closest friend. Definitely not her family. I played it straight. Stoic husband. Grieving partner. Wounded but loyal. When people dropped off flowers or meals or "thinking of you" cards, I smiled and thanked them like a man holding it all together. But inside, I was building something. A case. A plan. A way out. 3 days later, I ordered a paternity test kit online. I already knew the answer. But I had to be sure. It arrived fast. I waited until the kids were asleep. Swabbed Lily's cheek while she napped on the couch, curled up with her stuffed fox. She didn't even stir. I sealed the envelope, marked it "confidential," and mailed it the next morning. 7 days. That's how long it took. The email came while I was sitting in the ICU waiting room, flipping through a magazine I wasn't reading. I opened it on my phone. Probability of paternity, 0%. I sat there for a long time, just staring at that number. 0.0. There it was. Final. No more guessing. No more doubt. I didn't cry. I didn't curse. I just felt hollow. Like someone had scooped my insides out with a rusted spoon. Lily wasn't mine. Biologically, anyway. But as I sat there, I remembered the way she'd crawled into my bed that night after a nightmare. How she clung to my neck like I was her whole world. The way she looked at me when I fixed her broken toy. The way she called me "Daddy," not "Dad," like it was sacred. And I knew, in that moment, I wasn't leaving her behind. No matter what her mother had done. That night, I started making calls. First, a lawyer. Quietly, anonymously. A consultation. I asked questions I never thought I'd ask, about custody, about paternity fraud, about legal adoption. Then, I started reviewing our finances. Every credit card. Every hidden charge. Every transaction she thought I wouldn't notice. Hotel rooms. Lingerie. Uber rides to neighborhoods she had no reason to be in. It was all there. A roadmap of betrayal. She'd used my loyalty like a weapon. Turned my trust into a cover for her double life. And the worst part? I let her. For years, I ignored the signs. Wrote off the distance. Justified the excuses. Told myself I was just being insecure. That's what she'd say, too, every time I asked a question that came too close to the truth. You're imagining things. You're being paranoid. You don't trust me. God, I wish I hadn't trusted her. But that was done now. The trust was dead. What came next was survival. Not just for me, but for the kids. I wasn't going to be the guy who blew up the family in a fit of rage. No. I was going to be the guy who took the fire and forged something better from it. Starting with custody. Starting with truth. Starting with her. 12 days after the crash, she opened her eyes. I was sitting right there when it happened. In that stiff vinyl chair I'd spent more time in than my own bed. Her eyelids fluttered like someone trying to wake up from a nightmare. Then her hand twitched. Then her mouth moved, dry, cracked lips forming half a whisper. Water. The nurse came in, checked her vitals, and called the doctor. They said it was a good sign. That she was stable enough to reduce the sedation. That she might be lucid in a few days. Everyone looked relieved. They told me I must feel like a weight had lifted. But I didn't. The only thing I felt was the heat rising in my chest. A slow, simmering pressure. The kind you feel before something erupts. They kept her in the ICU for another day, then moved her to a private recovery room. By the time I saw her again, she was more alert. Still groggy. Bruised all over. Tubes running in and out of her. But awake. She looked at me with glassy eyes and tried to smile. You stayed, she croaked. I nodded. Didn't trust myself to speak. She reached for my hand. I let her. Her grip was weak, nothing like the woman I used to know. I'm sorry, she said. About everything. I almost laughed. Everything? What exactly did she think I knew? I stayed silent for a beat too long. Long enough that her eyes searched mine. And I saw it, the flicker. That flicker of panic. Like a mask slipping for just a second. You don't blame me, do you? She asked. For the crash. Ah. There it was. The real concern. Not guilt. Not regret. Fear. I shook my head. You weren't driving. Relief washed over her face. I was so scared, she whispered. I don't remember anything after dinner. Just darkness. I stared at her, hard. Do you remember what you were texting before the crash? She froze. Dead still. Her lips parted, but no sound came out. Her eyes flicked to the side like she was calculating. I leaned forward, placed her phone gently on the bedside tray. I charged it for you. Figured you might want to catch up with Mike. Her face went pale. The heart monitor beeped a little faster. She reached for the phone, then stopped. Her fingers hovered above it like it might burn her. You went through my phone. You were unconscious. They handed it to me. She didn't speak. Just stared at the screen. And I watched the gears turning. The excuses building. The lies rehearsing themselves in her throat. I didn't give her the chance. I know everything, I said. All of it. Mike. Eric. Greg. Anthony. Her head sank back into the pillow. Mouth still open. No words. You didn't just have an affair, I continued. You built a separate life. You lied every step of the way. To me. To the kids. You used my trust like a shield. Please, she finally whispered. Please don't take them away from me. That was her first reaction. Not, I'm sorry. Not, let me explain. Not even denial. Just please don't take the kids. Because she knew. She knew what kind of damage she'd done. I'm not here to scream at you, I said. I'm not here to throw anything in your face. But I've been documenting. Every charge. Every message. Every lie. She closed her eyes. A tear slipped down her cheek. And I know about Lily. That got her. She turned her face toward the wall, shoulders shaking. I don't care whose blood she has, I added. She's my daughter. I'm not walking away from her. But you need to understand something, this marriage, this illusion you built. It's over. She nodded slowly, still not looking at me. I'll do anything, she said. Please, don't ruin me. I'm not interested in revenge, I replied. Just the truth. And protecting what's mine. Then I stood up. And for the first time in a long time, I felt power again. Real, quiet, unshakable power. 2 days after our conversation in the hospital, I filed for separation. I didn't wait. Didn't argue with myself about whether she deserved the benefit of the doubt. Didn't hold a family meeting. Didn't talk to friends looking for advice. I'd already spent too long being quiet. This time, I moved first. My lawyer was sharp, recommended by a coworker who'd been through hell in his own divorce. She didn't sugarcoat anything. You've got the moral high ground, she said. But we're not here to win a debate. We're here to protect your rights. And your kids. That word, your, hung heavy. I told her about Lily. About the paternity test. She paused. Do you want to exclude her from the custody filing? I didn't even let her finish. No. She's mine. She nodded and made a note. Then we'll move to establish de facto parenthood and pursue legal adoption later. But you need to know, her mother can fight that. She won't, I said. She doesn't have the leverage. I'd spent the last few weeks building that leverage. Gathering messages, receipts, records. I handed my lawyer a flash drive with everything. She skimmed it in silence. Jesus, she muttered. She really built an empire of lies, didn't she? I didn't answer. Instead, we talked strategy. Custody, asset protection, temporary orders. I wasn't looking to destroy her, just separate myself from her. I wanted custody. I wanted to keep the house, the car, the things the kids relied on. She could take her yoga mat and wine subscription and start over. She was released from the hospital a week later. Bruised, limping, but physically whole. Her sister picked her up. I wasn't there. I'd made sure of that. The locks on the house had already been changed. She texted me from the driveway. Seriously? You locked me out? I didn't respond. Then a second message. We need to talk. Don't do this to the kids. That one made me clench my jaw. Don't do this to the kids. Like she hadn't spent years doing exactly that. Like I was the one tearing apart the family by finally waking up. My lawyer filed the temporary custody motion the next morning. I requested primary physical custody with visitation for her once she was cleared by her doctors. The court granted it within 48 hours. It helped that I'd kept detailed records, school pickups, meal logs, Lily's allergy chart, my work schedule adjusted for their routines. It also helped that she had no job, no steady income, and a documented history of lies. Her lawyer reached out within days. A clean-cut guy with a charming email signature and a "we're just looking for fair terms" attitude. Fair terms. I almost laughed. She wanted joint custody. Half the house. Alimony. She wanted me to pay for her betrayal. I declined. Formally. I sent back an offer that was fair to the kids and ice-cold toward her. No alimony. Child support based on actual parenting time. Access to the kids contingent on therapy and supervised visits, especially with Lily. Her response came 3 days later. A voicemail. Her voice was shaky. Not fake, for once. "You're not who I thought you were," she said. "I thought you'd fall apart. I thought you'd scream or cry or something. But you're just cutting me out like I'm dead." I deleted it. Because she was dead. At least the version of her I married. The next few weeks were chaos: lawyers, hearings, school pickups, awkward questions from the kids I wasn't ready to answer. I told them Mom was staying with Auntie for a while. That she'd be back when she was better. I didn't know what better even meant anymore. But every night, Lily would crawl into my lap. Every morning, my son would grab his lunchbox and hug me like everything was normal. And I held on to that. Because it was the only thing real anymore. It started with emails. The kind written at 2 a.m., full of "I'm sorry" and "I never meant to hurt you." Long, rambling things that tried to explain the inexplicable. She blamed the loneliness. The pressure of being a mom. The feeling that I didn't see her anymore. I was drowning, she wrote. And he was just a lifeline. He. Singular. As if there was only one. As if I hadn't read every filthy word between her and 3 other men. The emails turned into voice messages. Soft tones. Hesitations. Like she was trying to sound fragile. Redeemable. She cried on every one of them. At first, I listened. Not because I wanted to, but because I needed to understand what the hell went wrong. I wanted a reason. A final puzzle piece that would make the betrayal make sense. But it never came. There was no grand answer. No justification. Just 1,000 little cracks she never told me about, and 1,000 lies she used to cover them. She wasn't sorry for what she did. She was sorry she got caught. When the emails didn't work, she started showing up. At school pickup. Sitting on the far side of the parking lot in her sister's car. Waving from a distance like we were just 2 exes figuring it out. Lily waved back the first time, then asked me, "Why does Mommy look so sad?" That night, I sat on the bathroom floor for a long time after they went to bed. Lights off. Phone in my hand. I almost called her. Almost. But I didn't. Because sad or not, she'd made this bed. And I was finally done lying in it with her. She filed a motion to modify the custody agreement. Said she was healthy. Stable. Deserved more time. My lawyer fought it. Hard. We had documentation. Her history. Her behavior. Her erratic spending even after the crash. The fake therapy sessions. The proof she was still in contact with one of the guys, Mike, even after saying she'd cut him off. She showed up to the hearing in a modest dress, no makeup, hair tied back like she was trying to look wholesome. Her lawyer painted her as a mother clawing her way back to redemption. Mine presented her timeline of infidelity. Bank records. The emotional damage to the children. Photos of Lily clinging to me like a life raft. The judge didn't buy the performance. Supervised visitation remained. No overnight stays. When the ruling came down, she looked at me like I'd killed someone. That night, I got another message. Just 4 words, "How can you do this?" I didn't respond. Because I didn't do this. She did. I just finally started treating her like the stranger she'd become. You don't realize how much of yourself you've buried until you start digging out. The anger had faded by then. Not completely, it still flared now and then, like a hot coal buried under ash, but mostly, I'd grown tired of it. Rage takes energy, and I needed mine for the kids. Especially Lily. The court hadn't just granted me custody. They gave me a path forward, full legal guardianship of my son, and the beginnings of a formal adoption process for Lily. My lawyer said it'd take time. Biological ties complicate things. But intent mattered. Stability mattered. And I was giving her both. I found a therapist who specialized in child trauma, soft-spoken, calm, with shelves full of books and puzzles. Lily liked her. She called her the talking lady. My son didn't need as much. He was older, quieter. Carried things differently. But I saw it in both of them, the shift. The tension when the phone rang. The long stares out the car window. The way Lily asked me 5 times a night, "You're still gonna be here in the morning, right?" I always answered the same way. Always. And I meant it. We settled into a routine. Breakfast together. Drop-offs. School, work, dinner, baths, stories, bedtime. Rinse and repeat. It wasn't glamorous. It wasn't easy. But it was ours. And it was real. Some days I'd look around the house, the toys scattered across the floor, the cereal bowls left on the counter, the half-finished drawings taped to the fridge, and feel something close to peace. Other days, I'd sit in the dark after they went to bed and stare at nothing for a while. Just empty. The kind of tired that sleep doesn't fix. But I kept showing up. Because that's what fathers do. She tried, now and then. More emails. One letter, handwritten, full of half-apologies and polished phrases. She missed the kids. She missed us. There was no us. Not anymore. My lawyer warned me not to respond directly. Everything through legal channels. Every visit logged. Every word measured. I followed that to the letter. And still, Lily would ask me after each visit, "Why does mommy cry so much? What do you say to that? How do you explain betrayal to a child without stealing their innocence?" I never said a word against her. Never painted her as the villain. I let Lily talk. I listened. I told her it was okay to love her mom. That feelings are complicated. But when she asked me, "Are you really my daddy?" I felt my throat close up. I got down to her level, looked her right in the eye, and said, "I'm the one who tucks you in. The one who makes you pancakes. The one who carried you when your leg hurt. That makes me your daddy. Nothing else matters." She nodded. Wrapped her arms around my neck. That hug, that was everything. That was the moment I knew I'd already won the only battle that mattered. It happened on a Tuesday. I just picked up the kids from school. My son was telling me about a science project he wanted to build, something with wires and magnets and a soda bottle, while Lily hummed in the back seat, kicking her feet against her booster. My phone buzzed. Unknown number. I let it ring. Then it buzzed again. This time, a voicemail came through. And for some reason, I listened. Her voice. Shaky. Slow. Almost unrecognizable. "I need to see you. Just you. One time. Please." She didn't say why. Didn't mention the kids. Didn't ask for forgiveness. Just that simple request. I stared at the dashboard a long time after that. There was a part of me, the old part, the foolish part, that wanted to go. Not because I missed her. Not because I believed anything she'd say. But because I wanted to see her face when I told her, finally, without hesitation, that I was done. The next evening, after I put the kids to bed, I went. I told my neighbor I'd be out for an hour. Left a monitor with her. Just in case. She was staying in a small rental. Some 2-bedroom apartment her sister helped her find. I knocked once. She opened the door like she'd been waiting all day. I barely recognized her. No makeup. Hollow eyes. Weight lost in the wrong places. Hair pulled back like she didn't care anymore. Or maybe like she was trying to look innocent again. "Thanks for coming," she said, stepping aside. I walked in. Saturday. Waited. She sat across from me, silent for a minute, like she was trying to remember her lines. "I don't expect you to forgive me," she finally said. "I don't expect anything, honestly. But I've been going to therapy. Real therapy. Twice a week. And I'm learning things. About who I am. About what I did." I nodded. "I was selfish," she said. "I hurt you. I hurt the kids. I destroyed something good because I thought I deserved more. And maybe I did, but not like that." She looked up at me then. Eyes full of something close to sincerity. "If I could take it back." "You can't," I said. "And we're not doing this again." She blinked. Doing what? The confessional. The regret. The please don't hate me routine. I'm not here for closure. I'm here to say something, and then I'm gone. She sat back. Waiting. I took a breath. Slow. Controlled. I loved you, I said. More than I should have. I gave you everything I had. And you spit in my face. You made me question my worth. My judgment. My sanity. You made me feel like a stranger in my own home. Like a backup plan. Like an idiot. She opened her mouth. I held up a hand. I'm raising the kids. Full time. You get visits. You know the rules. But you lost me. You lost the right to my time, my trust, and my forgiveness. You'll get civility. Because the kids deserve that. But that's it. She nodded, eyes welling. Then I stood. As I reached the door, she said, Lily looks like him. I froze. Then I turned, slow. I know. You still love her? I looked her dead in the eye. She's mine, I said. And nothing you did can change that. And then I walked out. I didn't look back. Not once. I used to think forgiveness was about letting someone off the hook. That if I forgave her, it meant I was weak, that I was saying what she did was okay. But that's not what forgiveness is. It's not about her. It's about me. About putting the past down and walking away from it, one step at a time, with my head held high. I didn't forgive her in some grand moment. There was no dramatic sunrise, no stirring music. Just small moments. A smile from my son when I helped with his homework. Lily's laugh as I pushed her on the swings. A quiet dinner where nobody raised their voice or left the table angry. Life, piece by piece, started coming back. Different. But mine. I kept the house. Not because it meant anything anymore, the walls were soaked in too many ghosts, but because it was stability for the kids. I changed things. Painted the walls. Switched the furniture. Gutted the bedroom we once shared and turned it into a playroom. It wasn't about erasing the past. It was about reclaiming the space. The adoption for Lily is nearly done. A few more court dates, a little more paperwork. She doesn't know the details. She just knows she's loved. She knows she's safe. And she calls me daddy like it's her first language. She'll never remember a time I wasn't there. That's the gift I've given her, and myself. As for my ex, she's around. Visitation every other weekend. Holidays divided by the court. Supervised, still. She tries. I can't say she doesn't. But whatever she's looking for, closure, redemption, maybe just peace, she'll have to find it on her own. I don't hate her anymore. But I don't owe her anything either. I owe my kid something better. So that's what I'm building now, something better. I'm learning to cook more than eggs and grilled cheese. I'm learning how to braid Lily's hair, even if it ends up lopsided. I'm learning to let go of pride and ask for help when I need it. I'm learning that being both mother and father some days doesn't make me less of a man. It makes me the man I needed to become. And when people ask what happened, why I'm raising 2 kids on my own, why I seem older than I am, I just smile. I say, life hit hard. But I hit back. That's the truth. I didn't fall apart. I didn't vanish. I didn't become bitter or cruel or closed off. I stayed. I fought. I showed up. And in the end, when everything was on fire, and all the lies had been exposed, and the love I thought I had was dead and buried, I still chose to be a father. That's who I am now. Not the broken man in the waiting room. Not the fool reading messages on his wife's phone. Not the guy who wanted to disappear. I'm the man who stayed. The man who picked up the pieces and built something stronger. And if that's not love, I don't know what is.